Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is Mohammed again. It has been a while since I made any videos. My last video that I actually gave a quick demo of what I'm going to talk about in the next tutorial. It basically discussed how you can make a secure SpringBoot REST API. And in that video, I basically used one of the existing software that I have, and I was using Open Authentication 2 to secure that SpringBoot REST API, and I was demoing how to retrieve the data using that the stack. As a follow-up to that, what we're going to do today is I'm going to build something similar, an entire Java tech stack based REST API that would be secure using SpringBoot, but that would be used to retrieve the data that we used in our previous set of tutorial, which is this. So if you recall this, or if you go to the very last tutorial on this one, the part 10, and I have the GitHub link right here. It's all open, so you can check it out and look at it yourself. Just as a refresher, I'm going to show you how it looked before I move on to the current tutorial. So this is the exact code base that you can also check out, again using GitHub's link that I put in there. Alright, seems to be up. Let's go ahead and give that a try. So basically, it was an application where you had to log in, and I'm going to log in as an admin. There was two types of user, admin and a normal user. Admin user had access to maintain anything, like they could add, edit, delete the data that they have in the system. And it was a simple homepage, just tells you what the user is and what type of access role they have. And there was home. This is the list of menu item. The only thing I could do is maintain vaccine types. As you can see, I can add a new vaccine. And it's there, and I can edit it. And of course, I could delete it. So admin can do all that. Great, and I can log out. But if I log in as a normal user, yes, I can log in. It tells me that who I am, but I can only see the data. I can't really edit it. So that was the simple code application that we built. Just to give you a reference again, it was in my channels. This is the playlist that you wanted to look at if you wanted to see how I built it. So now the use case is, okay, this is now great, but that was all, interactive. What if a machine, another machine somewhere in the remotely wants to just automatically retrieve that data and use it, consume it? How do you do it? Of course, the industry standard has been web services, and REST API is probably one of the very popular, most popular way to retrieve that data. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to try to retrieve that data, but we're also going to make sure that it is secure, and that's where our security comes in. In my demo on this playlist right here, which would be the current video that's going to fall under, that I have shown you an Open Authentication 2. But just to keep things simple, in this tutorial, I'm just going to secure it using Basic Authentication. Of course, if you are interested in OAuth Authentication 2, I'll be more than happy to do it, but just shoot me a message, add some comments, and I'll be able to do another tutorial on OAuth. But this one would be dealing with Basic Authentication. The other thing that I wanted to mention is in this list of tutorials, again going back there, I actually went through very detailed, deep down, step-by-step instructions on how to download the software, where to change the code, and all that. In most of the boilerplate code, the base codes for the object relational mappings and Hibernate, and repositories is going to be the same or similar. That's why I'm not going to go follow the same approach in this tutorial. What I'm going to do is I already have it built and it's in the GitHub right now, and I'm going to put that GitHub link in the description below so you can get that code out. I'll assume that you are going to go check it out and kind of follow the step-by-step instruction that I'll show you how to import it and how to run it, and also explain the code. That way it will minimize a lot of the things that I've already done. Again, if you want to go look at the details, I suggest please go look at this set of tutorials, how I generated some of those files. All right, without much talking, let's go ahead and do that. Or I don't need this anymore. This was just a demo purpose. So I'm gonna go ahead, blow this up, close that, and completely delete this. Don't need that. No, just from previous project. Okay. Now, as I said, I will have the GitHub link. So all you will do is copy that link and go to your Eclipse. And again, the previous tutorial set tells you how to download this Eclipse. So please refer to that. If you're not sure what tool this is, how to download this. You would click on File, Import, and you want it to go to JIT. You want to import from JIT. Right here, projects from JIT. Next, you want to clone the URI, and since I have it already copied to the clipboard, it's smart enough to figure out, and it pasted it. But in your case, if it doesn't do it, just go ahead and paste it. I'm sure if you copy it, it will paste it automatically. Don't worry about the user ID password. It will never ask you for that because it's a public repository. So it checked out the main branch. That's great. And this is where you will need to decide where you're going to put it. Well, in my case, I typically like to put this in C YouTube projects and just put it right there, just to keep things organized. And just choose everything default. Now, of course, by default, it will say import existing Eclipse project. It's not going to be Eclipse project, so just don't worry about it. If it shows you this, just cancel out of this, because I did not save the Eclipse project details. You will import it as a Maven project just to keep things simple. Then you will go to import again, and then you will, in the list of things, this time you will say Maven, existing Maven projects, click next, and wherever you checked out your JIT project, in my case I did it in YouTube projects, and right here, EVMS underscore API, I'm just going to select that and select. It automatically knows that you have a Maven POM XML file, so just go ahead, it's checked already, there's nothing you can do, just click on finish. And it will automatically import the project. Now again, given that you have the environment set up already based on the previous tutorial set that I showed you, you should have all the Java and everything installed, so all these things should be seamless. So there you go. Now I'm going to go ahead and run it to show you how it works first. So again, you expand this, the API, EVMS API application, right click, go ahead and give it a run. It's going to use the exact same database backend, so we don't need to really create anything. And it should just start. There you go, it started. Now, it's an REST API, so I should be able to just go straight up there and say localhost. Now, of course, I know that one of the API in there is /API/EVMS/vaccination types. That will give me the list of vaccination types. Okay, as a data, as a JSON file actually, or JSON data. As you can see, it's asking me for the username and password, and that's where basic authentication comes in. So it has been secured with the basic authentication. So I'm going to go ahead and put a user authentication, which is this. And voila, it tells me to save it. I'm not going to save it. As you can see that it got all the data. Okay, now I have I'm using Firefox here, but you can use any browser you want. In Firefox, I have something, there's an add-on called REST, and that's what I have added. It's pretty easy to test the REST API. So, you can install it as well if you want. You don't need to use REST, you can use Postman. In the tutorial on the previous video, I think I've shown how to use Postman, but you don't have to use Postman. You could use anything you want. This is another one that I just wanted to show you that it also you could do it using this too. So this is called REST Client. It's an add-on that comes with, well, you install it in Firefox basically, and it's pretty easy to use. Again, you don't have to, I just have the collections saved already, so you don't really need to have it set. All you need to know is what URL to call. So I'm going to show you each one of them. So this one is, I just tried it, as you could see on the other one. So if I just send a request, it will automatically work because, of course, here it gave me the user ID password. In this REST API, there's another way you could just pass it in here too, and it automatically will do it. Now watch this. If I put a bad, I'm going to show the password. If I put a bad password, of course, and it won't work, right? I'm not going to save that, of course. Now, this is a normal user. Now, if you remember, normal user, regular user cannot change any data. So let's say, fine, I was able to get the list of vaccine types, good. I can also get a specific vaccine type, /Ebola. If I do that, that would work too. I can get it, no problem. I can retrieve the data, I can see it, not a problem, but I should not be able to add it as a normal user. So, well, as you can see that this is, I'm going to go ahead and change this to test and change this to 1, 2, 3. Let's try with the normal user. Normal user and a password. And as you can see, the URL is different. It's actually type add and it's doing a post. I'm sending a request. Well, I can't do it. So I have to have the authority. So I need to be an admin. Of course, that's not the right password either, so that's not going to work. The password is this. I do it. There you go. It did get added. As you can see, added successfully. It returns you this is what got added. And verified by going to my get again. Look at the send request. And there you go. You can see that it's got added. Okay, and then same thing you could do and edit a specific one. So let's say I'm trying to edit, and I'm going to go ahead and edit. That was the test, I think. And I'm going to change that. That's fine. And of course, you have to be admin to change it. And it was able to change it, as you can see. And I can go back to this and got changed. That's good. Then I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So that's the delete UI. Now, on the edit, if you remember, each of these is different requests. Get, this is post, that was for the add, put is for the edit, and delete for the deleting it. So I'm going to go to the delete, of course delete, and you have to specify exactly the node. There it is. And then you don't need to put anything in the body actually. You can send it. And it got deleted. And 200 basically means that it's successful return. So I can go back to the list again and show you that it doesn't exist. So basically that is what the API is doing, and it's reading the same data and everything. First of all, just to give you a quick flashback, is the database was called EVMS, password was tset, and it's the exact same data tables that I'm using. There's the list of vaccine types, and there's the list of users. If you're not sure what this is Microsoft SQL Workbench, and if you go to this set of tutorials, I think it's probably part 5, I showed you how to install that. So in between part 1 and part 5, I showed you how to install all the softwares and everything. So please go and look at that too, and the script is also there. And also, just for your convenient purpose, I kept the script here as well. So here's a SQL script if you wanted to, refresh the data. And also, if you happen to forget the password, here's admin password, here's your password. All right, that's all nice and fun. Let's look at what the code is doing. But first of all, of course, it has to read the database. So the database connection comes out of here, which is no different than how it was before. Nothing has changed in this properties file actually from the previous one. And of course, you're going to need a Hibernate config file. That's what this is. That basically tells you how to connect to the database, user ID and password, blah blah blah, all that good information. That hasn't changed either. It's also the same. The other thing that hasn't changed is the model, of course. This is no different than how it was on the previous one. This was actually generated using Hibernate reverse engineering. Again, this was probably done in probably part 5 or 6 on the previous set of tutorials. So this file, that file is exactly the same. The only difference is probably the package. The package named a different package, EVMS underscore API. The thing that starts getting a little bit interesting is first, I would say the web security config. So there's a change here. The change that was done here is basically to enable the web security. As you could see that most of the stuff was already there. We were using the database JDBC based authentication, so this was the same thing it was in the previous one as well, based on the table. This is what actually changed. Here what happens is it basically says that use the cross-site request forgery thing that just build and come in with SpringBoot, and so disable that. We don't need to worry about that. It is not a form submission. We don't need to worry about all this. And manage the session, but make sure it's stateless. So you don't have to remember what session, every user's session. Don't save it in the memory. You don't need to do that because it's a REST API. They're independent calls. And then this is where you specify that what are you authorizing. So right here, all it says is anytime someone goes to this URL through the API, they have to have at least admin or user. They can be user and admin and they can get into it. That's how you get the user prompt. You have to log in. Anytime someone wants to add something, edit something, these are the URLs for them corresponding, and the delete, they have to be admin. That's what this line is. And of course, this is simple. Basically, it's going to use basic HTTP authentication. And that's it. Very simple. All right, let's go to the next one. Next interesting one is the actual controller. We had a controller on our previous set of tutorial as well, which is on this one. But that controller was a normal web controller. This one is a REST controller, a little bit different. As you could see, the main mapping would start with API EVMS. It actually start here, put vaccination types as well. But anyway, I just want to do things a little bit different. So as you would see that there is simply 4 methods. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could guess. Or 5, sorry. These 2 are retrieving it. There's a get mapping. So you could get the list of vaccination types, and that's mapped with this. You get the entire list. It's pretty simple. It's returning the list of vaccine type, which is the model which hasn't changed. This is the Hibernate ORM reverse engineered model. And then another thing you will notice with each of these things, these methods, there is something that I'm passing, which is user password authentication token. I actually don't need to pass it here. I just realized that. But anyway, I just did it just for testing purpose actually. But you can actually pass this. Why this is useful? Because you'll see in a second. This is useful to get information about who is the user that has logged in. Okay. It's not useful when you're retrieving the list because it's just showing it to the user. No big deal. Here, this one is basically says show me a specific vaccine, and that's what the variable name you pass this. This is the mapping variable, and then that's called path variable, which gets mapped into this string. So whatever you pass, let's say test or Ebola, nothing would be passed, and you just define by ID, and then you return the entire vaccination type, the data. It's pretty simple. Add and edit and delete will be a little bit interesting because these are secured, right? So as you can see, this is a post mapping, it's a put mapping, it's a delete mapping. This is where it decides what requests to accept. So of course, obviously, when you're trying to add, it's going to expect that entire vaccination type, anything that you're passing in the body. Right? If you recall, go to the REST client, when I did the add, I need to pass everything. I had name, description, created date, created by, last updated by. That was all the list of fields in the table actually. Just to show you right here, this is the list of columns. Right, but I didn't have to pass all of them. All I passed was name and description, because obviously the created by, the last updated by, the date, there's no need to pass this. That should be system generated. The system should know what that is. And that's exactly what's happening here. So that is where the user authentication, passive authentication token, that class comes into play. You're basically getting the principal, getting the username, and also getting the roles. We're not using the roles here, but you can if you want. And then we're getting the current date, and you're setting the created by, created date, updated date based on that information. And then this is where it's saving that entire JSON, turning into an object. It's an entire object, and it gets saved into the database automatically. Same thing is happening, similar to happening in the edit. Edit, you're getting the passive authentication. Yeah, I kind of did it in one shot, just getting the username, because in edit, all you need to update is the updated by and updated date, and that's what this is doing. And whatever description you change, and that's what it's doing. And then that's it, you're saving it. And then in delete, of course, same, you need to specify what you're trying to delete. So you need to specify the primary key. It's the primary key, it's getting that entire object by the primary key, and then it's deleting it. And then it's returning into what has been deleted. So that's as simple as that. The only other thing that I would like to mention is, of course, I showed you, there's another funky way or interesting way of calling this. Let me show you. The main class is API, right here, EVMS API application. One thing you will note that, again, you don't need this client ID, client secret, and encoded credential, blah, 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 authorization. The reason I did it is to show you that you can also use this encoded string to pass that as a header, authentication header, authorization header, and you don't really need to put the basic authentication as user ID password. What do I mean by that? One other thing you'll see that I dump it in the system of print line just to get that value. So if you copy that value, that's nothing but user ID and the password, the colon in between, and you basically just encode it in the base 64 byte string. I can also use that, so I'm not going to use any basic authentication, right? So send request won't work because it's going to ask me for the password. You can pass that as part of the header. So I can add a header, and I could say authorization, and you need to specify what type of authorization it is, and you need to pass that encoded base64 string, and you can send request, and that would also work. How cool is that? So that's why I just put that in there, so that there's three ways, as I showed you in here in the REST client. You could of course do it by going to the API. It's going to ask if you use any password, you put it in, or you could put it as basic authentication right here, or you could put it as an authorization. So each one of these things you could do it actually. It's any one of them would work. I think that's about it. That's all I had. And if you have any questions, comments, I would love to hear from you. And that kind of ends the tutorial. And you all have a great day.